Hello and a very warm welcome again to this session. We are again resuming our discussion on feminism. In the previous discussion, we talked about the basic fundamental points of what is feminism, what are the waves, the characteristics. But today we are going to talk about the foundation, the seeds of feminism, how feminism came into being, the early feminist thought. So this topic is early feminist thought. Now, we'll be going to the basic introduction of this proto-feminism. Now, why we are calling this as proto-feminism? It is referring to the ideas and movements that anticipated modern feminism but emerged before the term feminism, so-called, was coined in the late 19th century. So these early thinkers and writers laid the groundwork for later feminist movements by challenging the traditional roles and status assigned to women in society. And they advocated for what? They advocated women's rights, education, participation in public life that often faced that was in the face of societal opposition. Now, the key proto-feminist thinkers. So to begin with, we have taken Christine de Pizan, 1364 to 1430. She was an Italian-born French poet, and her key work is the Book of the City of Ladies that was published in 1405. And her contribution was considered as one of the first feminist writers, and in this Book of the City of Ladies, she is trying to create an allegorical city where women are appreciated and defended, and she is critiquing the misogyny of her time and advocating for the intellectual and moral capabilities of women. Next, we are taking Mary Astell, 1666 to 1731. She is an English writer, and how she is arguing for the education for women and critiquing the institution of marriage and comparing that to slavery. Her key work is published in 1694. The work is A Serious Proposal to the Ladies, and her famous quote is, "If all men are born free, how is it that all women are born slaves?" The next key proto-feminist thinker is Sor Juan Inés de. Another proto-feminist thinker is Sor Juan in de la Cruz. Her lifespan is 1648 to 1695. She is a New Spain writer. Her key work is Respuesta a Sor Filote, and she defended women's right to for education and intellectual freedom. Her writings challenged the societal norms of her time, and she argued for the equality of sexes in intellectual pursuits. Now, the next key proto-feminist thinker is Olympe de Gouges. Her time span is 1748 to 1793. She is a French social reformer, and her key work is Declaration of the Rights of Women and of the Female Citizen, published in 1791. She is a political activist during French Revolution. Her declaration mirrored the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, but included women demanding equal rights and stressing that women should be recognized as full citizens as men. Now, the significant writing and themes. These proto-feminist writers emphasized on the importance of education for women as a means to achieve equality and independence. So they are arguing that education is the a kind of tool for intellectual empowerment, and it will allow women to contribute meaningfully to society and resist oppressive practices. Now, the institution of marriage is often criticized again as a form of bondage for women, and these proto-feminist thinkers like Maria Still highlighted the lack of autonomy and legal disadvantages women faced within marriage. Now, these early feminists challenged the prevailing notion of women were intellectually inferior to men. So these kind of thought they actually kind of opposed, and they used their own writing as a tool and intellectual achievements to demonstrate women's capabilities and potential. Now, the Enlightenment and the rise of feminist consciousness. So this actually Enlightenment period is also known as Age of Reason, and it was an intellectual and philosophical movement that dominated Europe during 17th and 18th centuries. It is actually emphasizing on the logical part of the brain, that is reasoning, individualism, skepticism of traditional authorities, promoting values such as liberty, equality and human rights. And this period actually provided fertile ground for the development of feminist ideas, as thinkers began to question established norms against the established norms and advocate for more egalitarian society. Now, what is the impact of these kind of thought? The Enlightenment focus on reason and individual rights led to increased questioning of traditional gender roles and the status of women in society. So there is a kind of questioning against the stereotypical thoughts and stereotypical roles. And these philosophers and writers began to apply Enlightenment principles to the issue of gender equality as well, leading to the rise of feminist consciousness. So this Enlightenment emphasized on education, rationality, and individual liberty, and these became the key themes in early feminist thought. So now we are going to talk about the important contributors and thinkers of that age. Now, Mary Wollstonecraft. So see, her period is time span is 1759 to 1797. She is a British writer and philosopher, and her work Vindication of the Rights of Women, published in 1792, is an important contribution, and she is often regarded as the mother of modern feminism. Wollstonecraft argued that women are not naturally inferior to men, but appear to be only because they are lacking education. The access of education is not there for women. She called for equal education opportunities for women and believed that rational education would enable women to be a virtuous and useful member of the society. So her work laid the foundation for the subsequent feminist movements by articulating a clear and compelling case for gender equality. Now we are moving on to a very important philosopher and economist, John Stuart Mill, 1806 to 1873. His work, The Subjection of Women, published in 1869. This is a key work, one of his key work, and he as a philosopher and political economist argued for gender equality based on utilitarian principles, and he believed that society as a whole would benefit from the liberation and education of women. His advocacy for legal and social reforms, including women's suffrage, was instrumental in advancing the feminist cause during the 19th century. So not only female or women of those period, but men too, some of the men too were important or kind of played a important role as a catalyst to kind of ignite this feminist thought and consciousness. Next is Judith Sargent Murray, 1751 to 1820. She is an American advocate for women's rights, and her work is on the equality of the sexes that was published in 1790. She is an early American advocate for women's rights, and she is arguing that women and men have equal intellectual capabilities, emphasizing on the importance of providing women with opportunities for education and self-improvement. Murray's work highlighted the limitations imposed on women by societal expectations and called for greater gender equality in educational and professional opportunities. Next is our Marquis de Condorcet, 1743 to 1794. He is a French philosopher. His key work is on the admission of women to the rights of citizenship, published in 1790. Condorcet, a French philosopher and political scientist, was a strong advocate for women's rights, and he is arguing that denying women their civil rights was really irrational and unjust, and he believed that women should have the same political and civil rights as men do, including the right to vote and participate in government. So the themes, the Enlightenment themes and feminist thoughts, these Enlightenment feminists argued that women, like men, possess natural rights and should be recognized and protected by society, and this included right to education, right to participate in public life, and right to personal autonomy. The concept of natural rights was central to this Enlightenment critique of traditional power structures and its advocacy for individual freedoms. Rationality and education again is an important sub-theme of this feminist thought, and the belief in the power of reason led Enlightenment feminists to advocate for women's education, arguing that they would be better mothers, wives, and citizens, contributing positively to society. So education was seen as a means to empower women and enable them to achieve to their full potential. Now again, these thinkers began to critique the patriarchal structures that limited women's freedom. They questioned traditional gender roles and legal and social inequalities that kept women subservient to men. Now, this critique laid to the groundwork for later feminist movements that sought to dismantle patriarchal systems and achieve gender equality. Now, to conclude with, these proto-feminist thinkers and Enlightenment philosophers laid the groundwork for the feminist movements that emerged in 19th and 20th centuries. Their writings and ideas challenge the status quo, advocating for the rights and capabilities of women, and by examining their contributions, we see and we gain deeper understanding of the historical roots of feminist thought and ongoing struggle for gender equality. Now, these are some of the texts you can go through for these are the references you can go through. Then thank you very much for listening. We'll meet again with a new concept of this module according to the module in the next video. Thank you.